YouTube, what's going on with you all? It's Thursday morning, and you know what that means? It means I only got one more day until the weekend. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So the executive producer for Marvel Rivals. Now I don't know who this gentleman is, and I don't know exactly where he posted it, but this has been something that's been circling around for a couple of days on different platforms and stuff that people have really been talking about. And I personally think that it's a really interesting topic. But basically, the executive producer for Marvel Rivals came out and said that there needs to be harsher punishment for throwers in Marvel Rivals. And I'm assuming that he's talking about just ranked, but I do feel like maybe there should be some leeway with quick play, because quick play, I personally feel like there shouldn't really be. I know there's a lot of people that play quick play and they play it competitively, whereas with me, I've never, just a little bit of preface, I don't leave matches. I've never been kicked from a match, never left a match, anything like that. Actually, let me take that back. There was one time when I was in a ranked match and I was kicked because my graphics card had like some kind of bug, and I ended up realizing later that it was because I hadn't updated it. It's not set to like automatic updates. So I think that was the issue, but I was able to actually come back to that match immediately. The game just closed out and I immediately opened it back up. It was like a minute before I was back in and actually loaded back into the match. And we actually ended up winning that match. I had a pretty decent team that was able to, I think we had a Captain America. He was able to cover things, probably just ulted on him. And that was long enough to literally let me load back into the match. But shy of that, though, I've never been kicked out of a match. I don't rage quit matches. It doesn't matter what I have going on. I'm going to finish the match out because that's just how I am. I haven't had any type of emergency situation where I've had to leave yet or anything like that. But the point I'm making is that when I play quick play, I don't play it competitively. Sometimes if I'm playing with friends or something like that, then yeah, I am kind of playing it competitively, but I do understand at the end of the day that it's just quick match. Like, to me, that's where you go to learn new characters, to warm up maybe before you get into rank or whatever the case is. But I just assume that whenever anybody's doing anything in quick play, that they're just trying to like get better at the game, and maybe they're trying out characters, like I said, that they don't know or aren't as familiar with and stuff. Or grind out Lord. Let me just say that as well, because that is where I go to grind out Lord, if I'm purposely trying to do it. The point I'm making though is that I do feel like with quick play, there should be some kind of like exceptions made in regards to like reporting someone for throwing. I don't even really feel like that should be a thing in quick play, because it's not that deep. No one is checking for your quick play stats, and if they are, that's kind of weird to me. I'm not going to lie to you. But as far as ranked goes, yes, I do feel like throwers, there should be punishments. And if it was up to me, the punishments would be very severe. Now, are we gonna take you out at dawn and do what they usually say with those kind of individuals? No, that's ridiculous. But at the same time, though. And just another thing too, because I've never left a match and I've heard so many varying things, if there's anybody that's listening to this video who actually has left a match or been kicked from one, and you got the punishment or penalty for abandoning a match, whatever the case is, let me know what the punishment is. I've heard people say that like you get banned for a couple of hours, you get banned for 15 minutes. And I don't know if that's, obviously I would think that they would give you varying punishments based off of how many times you had done it in the past or the severity of it. Like maybe if you left immediately, whatever the case is. And also too, I don't really know what's considered throwing technically, because if you think about it, what's interesting about it, me personally, I have a definition of throwing, but that might vary from what other people's are. And from reading comments and stuff under the original post, I see that there's a lot of people that have different variations. So like for me, for example, I only consider it throwing if you just leave the match or if you just sit in your spawn or something because people, I don't know, picked on you about whoever, like what character you were using, or they were saying you weren't doing enough damage or healing or whatever the case was. So then you decided to retaliate by just sitting in your spawn or whatever the case is, right? That to me would be throwing. Same thing as if you get mad because you don't get your pick or because someone said something you don't like and you just rage quit the match or whatever. That's what's considered throwing to me. But there are some people out there that believe that you're throwing a match if you pick certain characters in a game. And I'll give you an example of one that's really popular, or a few that are popular. Jeff was one that a lot of people in rank early on were kind of like, if you're picking Jeff, you're throwing. What are you doing? Black Widow, a lot of people have a very big bias against Black Widow. And I kind of understand these things because it's kind of a situation where a lot of times, like for example, the Black Widow, there are very few Black Widows that I've seen that are actually like good enough at a game to where in higher levels of rank that you would actually want that to happen. Even like rank period, I feel like people are just going to be like, you're kind of selling. There's a million other choices you could probably pick that you're better at. But I have also seen Black Widows that are absolutely amazing at the game. There was one in our game one time that I had like back to back. It wasn't back to back, but it was like within a few games of each other. and I've forgotten the person's name, but they had to be like a pro because this person was literally MVP in both games. They went like 30 something in like one or two. I tried every character possible at the time to try to beat this person, and I just couldn't do it. They always, even when I was playing as Spider-Man, like I would sneak attack them while they were busy, and they would still turn around at the perfect moment, kick me, stun me up in the air, and give me the headshot action, right? So there's exceptions to everything. It's just that once people have dealt with enough of something, then they start to kind of have like this pattern recognition, right? And if you've had 50 Black Widows at different points on your team and they were terrible, and then you come across one or two, you're going to definitely remember the 50 more than the one or two. So that's not to say that it's not possible to play these characters and be good at the game. It's just that they're very few and far in between. No differently, but at the same time, like who's to really say that though? Because you might see a bunch of people that play Moon Knight that are really good, and then you get two or three of the bad Moon Knights, and you don't really remember those as much, and it doesn't have that same stigma to it. And it's kind of the same thing with Jeff. I can't lie. Personally, when I used to see people pick Jeff, I'd be like, bro, can you pick literally anyone else, man? This is not going to help us. Like, and I used to do that. But one of the mods in my Discord, and if you haven't joined the Discord, join the Discord. The link is in my channel bio. You click more info, you can join it. You'll get to play with lots of cool people. You get to be on stream with me a lot of times, and sometimes in stages that we do where we get together and have conversations, and I do videos about that. But nonetheless, though, the point I'm making is that one of my mods and a friend of mine, she plays Jeff, and she is absolutely goated at Jeff. She literally just gets MVP damn near every single game. She has great positioning, great understanding of the game, and understands Jeff through and through, and really provides most of the value a lot of times in matches, to the point to where she's giving people nightmares about Jeff. So there's exceptions to everything, but a lot of the Jeffs that I come across are not very good at all. And you'll see that a lot of times when we play together. She'll be using Jeff going off, and then other people on the team will say, you know what, let me switch over to Jeff, maybe I can do the same exact thing, and they get absolutely destroyed. So that's how most people play Jeff. So it does kind of like create this bias, because there's only so many people that actually play a lot of these characters that aren't picked as much and excel at them, whereas the majority of people probably don't really understand how to get the full value out of the character. So once again, it just creates like a big bias. So should that be considered throwing as well when people do stuff like that? And is it currently considered throwing? Same thing with a lot of people. They say, oh, well, you're throwing a match if everybody locks on to DPS and nobody wants to switch. Because I see that all the time. People load in and everybody wants to be Psylocke. Everybody wants to be Bucky. Everybody wants to be Magic. They all want to be these, or Spider-Man, whatever. They want to be these characters, or they have their favorite tank. And then everybody's like, well, I'm not going to heal. And it's like, brother, you're selling the match at this point. And this is why I play a flex player, because I'm of the mindset that like you got to be the change that you want to see, to quote Gandhi or whoever said it. But like if everybody has the same mindset, then it's not going to work out. That'd be no differently than there's a lot of people that say, well, I want to play, I have a main, and I'm going to only play this character, and that's how I'm going to reach this rank. How is that possible? Eventually, the game is going to start putting you in with people. I've seen it before. When I play a certain character and I say, you know what, I'm just going to play only this character. I'm going to play Cloak and Dagger. I'm going to play Thor. I'm going to play whoever it is that I'm really into playing for that period of time. Eventually, after so many matches, if I don't switch, the game will start putting me in with not just one or two people that also play that role, but like a whole team of us, almost just to kind of troll and be like, what are you going to do now? And I've seen, there's a video, I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the videos about EOMM or something like that, or one of my crash out rants that I did, where I literally start the video out, and it's actually numerous clips of you seeing people before it even rolls to the introduction part of my video. I put this at the very beginning. There was one where it was like a team full of people that all wanted to be Magic, and I'm like, what are we doing? And two of the people end up leaving because they couldn't have Magic, so they just leave the match. These are ranked matches. Same thing with Psylocke. There was a bunch of people that wanted to play Psylocke, and they all got loaded in together. Me, I'm like, I don't care. I'll just play literally anyone else. But these people, it's like their life is tied to their main character in the game, and they just can't fathom playing anyone else. So they would rather leave and take whatever penalty. I know there's got to be some penalty when you just leave a ranked match. It can't be nothing. And that would blow my mind if that was the case. But still, though, a lot of people consider that to be throwing. I'm not talking about like when you can't get your character and you leave the match, but if everybody just says, oh, well, you know what, we're not going to be any healers, or none of us are going to swap to tank, knowing that we more than likely need a tank. And you could make the argument that with any other role, it's not necessarily needed, because I have seen teams of like only DPS and one healer, and they just all really know how to work together, and they just steamroll through a team. I've seen 3 tanks or 4 tanks and 2 healers, whatever. And if people really know what they're doing and they really have the passion for it, they can make it work. So you can't say it's like we got to have a team comp thing, because then at that point, what's the difference between role queue? But I will say this, when nobody picks a healer, you are going to get decimated by a team that has healers on it. That's just a fact. That's just not going to work. There's no person that I'm going to believe is going to sit here and tell me that they're going to steamroll a competent team. Now, if you're playing against bots or something like that, no disrespect to bots, but if you're playing against people that have no idea how to play the game whatsoever, and you are really aware of where the health packs are, but even that's going to be hard because at any given time, there's only 2 health packs within a close enough range that most people are going to be able to get to that aren't Spider-Man or something, to where they're going to be able to get the health pack and get back into the fight in enough time to where it's just not going to be like, what are we doing here, right? And the health packs, even once you grab those health packs, it takes them, I forget exactly how long, but I wager somewhere around like 20 to 30 seconds or something for them to replenish. It might be less, but in the heat of battle, though, that's like an eternity, right? Maybe 2. So that's just not feasible. But at the same time, though, like, what exactly constitutes throwing? And how do you all feel about it? I mean, I would say off the top of my head that it just seems like the common sense thing, that throwing is what I said initially. People that leave matches early and or rage quit, whatever you want to call it. People that sit in their spawn when they don't get their way. What exactly is throwing, and how exactly do we implement that? Like, and what should be the punishment? Meaning, like in game, what should be the punishment for people that do throw the game? Should they? Because me personally, I feel like if you are leaving matches preemptively, not only should people get their SR back or whatever the points are in this game that are called for rank. Sorry, I'm still probably Call of Duty brain, but your rank points that you lose for those games, you should get those back. Which to me, that is when the chrono cards and stuff are applicable, or really you could just call it whatever you want to, but it would just stop from counting as a loss. And the game should be able to know the difference, because I know a lot of people might say, well, at that point, people would just load in with their friends, and then because that was what happened in Call of Duty for a while. People would load up with their friends, and then they would just leave out of a match so that you would get like loss prevention or whatever to stop you from losing points. And then that's what people did. They did it all the time. They thought they were in a lobby that was too hard, or they saw like a pro player in there or whatever, because we also used to have a tracker application where you could see who was in the lobby. And now people just they can go through like the lobby names, and they can see what people's ranks are or what they were, whatever the case is. There's multiple ways that people can go about it to kind of tell who's in the lobby. And if they see someone who's really good and they feel like it's going to be too competitive and they're not going to be able to gain enough points, one person will just leave, bite the bullet on that for a little bit, whatever the 15-20 minute time period is, or whatever the case is, and then the rest of the people on the team get loss prevention. So you could argue that people might start doing stuff like that, but to me, it's not hard to tell if you loaded in with people and one of those people left, then you should have to suffer the consequences, and that would prevent people from stacking and just cycling through each other and saying, okay, well Timmy over here is going to have to get 15 minutes out, and then next it'll be such and such, whatever, right? But me, like I said, I feel like there should be harsher punishments when you leave matches, when you throw, just in general, by my definition of what it is. And with me, I would start off like, if you leave a rank match preemptively, that's like 24 hours that you can't even play rank. You do it again, it's a couple of days until it gets to the point to where you can't play ranked anymore this season, if that's just what you're going to do. And, I'm really curious to hear what you all think, like what you think because like I said, it's one thing when I say stuff, I'm just one person. And because I don't leave matches and I don't throw a fit, and it really does suck once you've invested, some of these matches take upwards of like 20 minutes a lot of times. And time is the one thing in the world that you can't get back. It's the most precious thing on the planet. So when people waste my time, I take that really, really personal. Even more personal than if like, let's say you go out somewhere and someone sells you something and you waste a little bit of money. I'm like, money, it comes and goes. I can get that back. My time, though, I cannot get that back. My energy, I can't get that back, in regards to the energy that I put into things, like, in my time, kind of all coupled together. So that's just my thoughts on it. But like I said, I'm always curious to know what you all think, because like I said, sometimes people provide situations and stuff where you go, okay, well, I thought this was kind of a one-way thing, but now I'm kind of seeing it from a different perspective. Or maybe sometimes, because I take certain things more personal and I'm more biased on that, which I try as hard as I can to not be biased with stuff like this. But at the end of the day, I'm a human being, right? I have feelings, I have opinions, emotions, all that kind of stuff. So if I take something personal, then obviously I'm going to think like, oh, well, the punishment should be super harsh for this. But it's nice when we talk about things and, you know, we play out different scenarios so that you can kind of say, okay, well, what if this was to happen, or what if this was to happen? You know, how do we really combat that? What does this really realistically look like when we actually do start implementing harsher punishments for throwers? And how do we determine exactly what things are throwing versus what things aren't throwing? So I do think it's a really important like conversation to have, and I do think that they should definitely by at least season 3 come to some type of understanding and start implementing it, because this is something that I deal with regularly, and it always seems to happen around the time when you're about to rank up or whatever the case is. After you had a couple of wins, then all of a sudden you start getting thrown in these matches with these people that I'm sure that they have some type of information on, to where, I mean, why would they not, right? Everything that's electronic now gets stored away, and it's stored away for a long time. They have every stat and analytic on you for everything that you've ever done, and you don't just wake up one day and just go, I'm gonna just start throwing matches. I mean, obviously you would at some point have to decide, like, I'm triggered, I'm whatever, I'm rage queuing, I'm gonna start quitting. But your habits don't really change. That's what my father used to always say. And the same way that I don't believe in rage quitting matches and stuff like that, or throwing matches and taking stuff super personal while I'm in the match. Now, don't get it twisted. After the game is over and done with, I'm gonna talk my talk in the chat, you know, but at the same time, there's been plenty of times where I was like, yo, this guy has been being negative the whole time and saying stuff directed at me. I'm not gonna heal him. But then ultimately I just end up healing him. And like I said, once the game is over, then I go into the chat and I'm like, yo, listen, let me give you a piece of my mind, right? But as far as being in the game, though, I'm just too competitive for that. I'd rather sit here and heal this person that's saying GG no heals, even though I'm literally spam healing them. And, you know, they're just looking for someone to blame, and then just deal with it after the fact and give them peace of my mind. But like I said, I'm going to wrap this video up, though. We're coming up on like the 20-minute mark. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there as food for thought for people, and just kind of check the temperature and see what people were thinking, how they feel. I've yet to really meet someone that has had a strong defense for rage quitters and people that are considered to be throwing matches, and what people consider to be throwing matches. But I'm always interested to hear from people, because there's a lot of times where I think that something is just very straightforward, and you know, you guys come through, or, you know, ladies in there too, and you tell us stuff, you give us different perspectives and inputs, and, you know, I really feel like that's really important to have, especially when you're making decisions that affect the whole entire community. So like I said, leave it in the comments. If you're not part of the Discord, join the Discord, because I probably will be having a stage about something similar to this, if not this exact topic, here pretty soon. I'd love to have you all in there, sharing your thoughts and opinions and stuff like that. But like I said, that's all I have for you today. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one.